Hello everyone, in today's video I'll show you how to get the Author Medal, Champion Medal, and maybe even World Record on the Summer 2023 track 08. Actually, fun fact, I was already done with the 08 video with the Hefest run, which was way more straightforward on the map, and it gently showcases way better card control. Just as I was done rendering, I was about to upload it, Blood from Hungary set the world record on the map with a completely different approach. And today we're gonna have a look at both replays. I'm gonna show you on what does he do at the very start, what's the reason why he gets so much momentum and everything like that, and also the way how you can potentially get the world record, because the ending for him has not been the best and actually was kinda lucky, genuinely, as there was no structure in his ending whatsoever. So this can genuinely be a proper world records tutorial if you are willing to commit to this map. Also, after we're gonna be done reviewing the current world record start strat, I'm gonna pass it down to past self, and who will explain on what's the best approach to do if you do not want to go for this strat. Also at the same time, so you have a better setup points for the very end of the map, which the current world record does not do, and it can open a lot more room for more improvement. Alright, so as mentioned, 08 in the first place, let's do a quick map introduction, is a downwards ice downhill. If you probably have heard, a lot of people said A08. Basically, in Trackmania 2 games, all of the A08 tracks were a downhill of some sort, and it has also kind of continued in the new game in some campaigns. So if you ever hear people saying, oh, it's like A08 kind of thing, it's just because in the Trackmania 2 games that were based off Mania Planet, all A08 tracks were a downhill on all environments. If you have played like stuff like TMUF or TMNF or TMN ESWC, like those are not downhill, so I have seen some people getting confused about that. It's basically a reference to the Trackmania 2 series games. And in this campaign as well, since we have a plastic wall right here, which is going to be one of the reasons why such a trick exists in the first place, and also it's an ice downhill, it's very chaotic map, and usually on maps like these are just like, I would say this is the map that's perfect for people who really enjoy stuff like Kacky or lol maps, where you just have to throw yourself at some element and kind of hope for the best outcome kind of maps that are relying on certain kind of setup, but not so much relying on genuine pace-based skills that transfers to many other type of maps. And due to that, a leaderboard for this map is very saturated with a lot of people who are not that great of players on other types of maps, but there are people who have very good card control and everything like that, which is one of the reasons why I pointed out of Hefest, who had the previous world record on this map, who is one of the players who has one of the best card controls, and it's like a bit of a separate skill set compared to like being very fast and very efficient with lines and everything like that. Usually maps like that can really showcase that specific type of a skill set, and that's why there is not the same player correlation compared to other maps. And usually on downhills, especially this world record perfectly describes it, is since he got just one trick properly, and he generally got a lucky end with he had some vague idea of how to do card control, at least the Blood's world record, but it felt a bit all over the place because he was going for ice wiggles that generally do not make the car faster and things like that. On 08s or maps like this, the top times are not really by people who I have heard of or who will appear more, and Blood's world record is also one of the cases right here. But he does do a start trick that I actually predicted that will be used here. And I already knew such a trick will be faster, but yeah, someone actually did got it together. And on top of that, I got a world record with it. Also, was mentioned, since I'm gonna do the Hefest guide afterwards, then I highly suggest checking that out, because that will definitely help you on getting a proper time, because to learn about the setups at the very end of the track. Alright, so let's see what does he really do and what does it make it so much faster. So he goes for a bit of an ice slide, as you can see, and he gets like this very bizarre speed boost on the side of the wall, and then he just tries to get through without the map and gets quite lucky in the way how he got in the end. So what really happens here is that, so we see that there's the input display. First of all, this is not really an input display. This shows if the car has an acceleration pressed or car has a brake being pressed, and these are not precisely inputs, but they are the wheel position, but they still give a good idea of what's being pressed and everything like that. Also in Trackmania, there's two types of accelerations. There's the forwards acceleration right here and the sideways acceleration right here. So if we play the replay a bit, we're gonna see these numbers go up quite massively. And if he's gonna be straight once again, we're gonna see these numbers drop to very small amounts. And the sideways acceleration is one of the main reasons why ice legs and bud slides work in the first place in Trackmania. And as we saw, especially at this point, these numbers just went way up. And those are gonna be one of the main reasons why such a trick can exist in the first place. Alright, so what is really happening? What is he really doing? So he goes in an early ice slide here early on. So I guess 06 is not gonna be the only map where there's an ice slide in it, but this is definitely not so traditional. So basically, on plastic, if you do hug the wall, it starts to cause some bit weird properties to the car. My past self is gonna explain a bit differently right here, because there's an also interesting abuse you can do on this specific wall. But basically, if you hug the plastic wall, it causes some very interesting things for the car to happen. Also in Trackmania, there's a thing where if the car transitions from one surface, especially like water or ice, to any other surfaces, it still maintains some kind of other properties from that previous surface. So it creates this weird mesh of grips after going to a different surface while transitioning from one to another. And since in theory, he still touches the plastic here, it causes some bit weird properties right here. So right here, he goes on an ice slide, he hugs the wall, and causing a bizarre set on the side. So if you do hug the wall, especially plastic, because plastic does not slow the car down if you do hug it compared to any other surface, it causes the car still to accelerate while kind of sticking on the wall, because there's sideways velocity. As you see, there's front velocity and it's going in this direction, so that's why the car is kind of stuck into that side of the wall. At the same time as he's accelerating to the side, it also causes the sideways acceleration to happen. But since he's not on the ground anymore, this is the weird reason why the double acceleration will stack up. Maybe if people have followed the Kacky events, or have played some lunatic maps or things like that, there is a bug, at least some people in the community call it, as the Spider-Man bug, which is kinda of a nose bug against the wall, kinda like that. As we look right here, and we look at the speedometer right here for the forwards velocity, we're gonna see it jump very unusually fast. Like he, in just a half of a second, jumped from 180 to 260. Just like that. And that's going to be one of the main reasons why that happens. So why does such a thing happen? Okay, so basically, as he's still stuck here to the ground, there's a bit of friction on the ground that kind of stops for the momentum to be carried. But since he goes airborne right here, there is no friction that kind of stops such velocity to disappear. And as he has both wheels at this point touching the side of the wall with the front wheels, and he has full sideways acceleration, it basically allows the both forwards velocity and sideways velocity to stack up. For this specific moment, still his wheel touches the ground to have way more acceleration than if it was on a normal straight surface. And that's one of the main reasons why he gets so much more momentum using such trick in this situation. If there was, let's say in theory, if there was just a magnet ice or whatever, then he could not get such an air boost. But the fact that he went in an ice slide already, and the ice slide carried over to plastic, because plastic kind of is a bit of a glue in a sense, where it kind of carries out over properties, because he still has the ice wheels on this situation. And since the ice wheels are starting to transition off, it creates this weird boost effect on the sides with this velocity stacks up as it transitions from sideways to forwards acceleration. So it stacks up in this situation as there is no friction, and it causes so much momentum to happen. And then he just tries to amplify the momentum till the very end. He doesn't even get the momentum properly because he loses a bunch of it right here due to a smooth landing. So I feel like this map will get absolutely destroyed later on. So basically, to summarize the very start, so he goes for an early ice slide right here. He actually gets the landing kind of alright, he gets insta grip early on. Then he ice slides, initiates the full grip when the revs start to rev up properly to initiate the sideways acceleration efficiently. Just as he hugs the wall, as his wheels are still touching it. Then, as he's still in a full ice slide state, he fully regrips the wall. That gives the both forwards and sideways velocities to stack up in this situation. And that's why it flings on the rest of the track that he, I would say, With some very vague setups, he does manage to control it at the end, but kinda can sense a bit of panic and a bit of unstructure in his run. So this time can definitely go way downhill. And with this, I'm gonna pass it to my past self, who will give a better rundown on what are the main things to do. Also, if you do not want to go for such ice slide trick, one of the best ways how you can get yourself a champion medal on this kind of a track. The world record on this map is by Hefest. As mentioned before, Hefest is one of the players who has the best car control in the game. And I feel like this is definitely one of the maps where it allows Hefest's skill to be kind of showcased in a way. Because the way how he sets up the car in specific places is very efficient. Basically sets the car up so it tries to reduce the amount of wiggle effects and things like that in the map, but also gives the best amount of momentum out of each turn as well. Alright, that's gonna be about the introduction. I will say this is my least favorite map in the campaign personally. Really not a fan of these kind of just, you know, not that pacey maps kind of thing, but I really like that at least campaign represents almost everything what Trackmania has to offer. Even if I don't like it, I think it's pretty good that some stuff like this is still being represented in the game. Alright, so we're gonna go through the full replay of this map, and as we see early on, there's some interesting things that are happening right now. The full map is just a massive downhill on ice. But there are some interesting parts that do happen here. Since ice as a surface is used basically everywhere right here, there's gonna be some interesting parts that we'll have to keep in mind that were kind of very similar to what 04 had. Also, as mentioned, that similar as 04, this map is not included in matchmaking or ranked. So 04 and 08, both of these maps, due to their nature, are not present in round-based play. Honestly, that's for the better. Anyway, yeah, it's still part of our campaign, so let's go through it on what does the world record do here, and so you have a better understanding of why does he do it in a specific way as well. Alright, so at the very start, he does either, if you're on keyboard, either do a small tap to the side or a small steering movement, basically, so the car aims immediately to the left. Reason why we're gonna go to the left, here also the sideways steer, cancel the sideways rotation of the car, and right here, he actually air brakes, not to be flat, but so the car basically gets the grip a bit earlier, so it gets a bounce like this, and the front wheels will continue the grip immediately afterwards, and that will allow to give a bit more momentum for the next jump right here. As you see, this wall right here is plastic, and he immediately hugs it. One crazy thing about plastic is that basically the sideways part of the wheel gets fully, let's just say, immersed in plastic, so at this jump right here, the car will land flat if you hug the wall right here, but it needs to have the both wheels touching the side. And if you remember on map 05, yes, if you land on plastic, you will immediately go flat like this, so it won't allow the car to bump like this. So that's the main reason why he hugs the wall. It's basically to trick the game that you're actually driving on plastic instead of hugging it. So to mention a bit about the very start, he goes a bit to the side. There's a small air brake for the landing here flat, but it's not fully landing. He's like a bit like this kind of angle. That is done so it gets a bit front wheels a bit bounced up, and then those front wheels will continue the regrip. Since the back wheels are already gripped, this will allow to continue the front wheels to continue the grip and acceleration of the car. And we get a flat landing due to this plastic property. And right here, he starts to do the escape of the plastic wall. So he's now continues just steering straight. He actually gets a very nice, very smooth landing right here. That allows to elevate momentum even more. And right here, he does a small tap to the right. This is basically so he can escape the wall and does immediately an air brake to make sure the landing is gonna be flat. He steers a bit to the right here to cancel the sideways rotation, because on ice you always want to be as straight as possible as you can. But since there's gonna be the side of the checkpoint, so that's why he does that to basically escape it. Here he does an early correction. Since on ice, if you have the car pointing a specific way, it will start to slide that specific way. So that's why he does an early setup right here. The first one was to escape the wall. Even though he has not even crossed the checkpoint, he already has set up the car so it aims a bit to the left. And he actually oversteers the car in a specific way, so at this landing point, he can use the downhill to gather even more momentum for the side. So reason why that happens is because if you have like obviously a momentum like this, there's like gravity being pulled down, and it creates a higher level of g-force, and it will create a bigger acceleration points right here. So that's one of the main reasons why this landing right here also gives so much more speed. Right here on oversteer just enough so he can make this jump right here while straightening out the car because he's a bit sideways. So he uses also the counter steer in the midair to slow down a bit the rotation of the car so he's straight as possible. Same case right here, a small counter steer to slow down the rotation as well. And this part is one of the weirder parts of the map. So if you look at like very closely, even at the input display, he does not air brake because this specific bounce will allow the car to bounce in a specific way where he uses the first bounce from the back wheels and the second one, like first one will bounce like this and the second one will bounce it like this, and he immediately does an air brake while the back wheels are touching the ground, and that will allow the full cancel of rotation early on. If you look like this, like as soon as the back wheels touch, he does press the brake, and that will have a hard rotation cancel for the last jump because he wants to snag this booster completely, as well to have full forwards grip before the very last jump to end off the map with as much as momentum as they can to go directly into the finish. Summarize the second part a bit. So he uses the momentum right here, uses the small steering while he has a bit downwards grip on this part right here. Just in this point, he uses small steering to escape the wall. Air brake to land flat since he's no longer touching plastic. Here, while he slides to the side, early reconstruction of the momentum for ice to the left. Here, a big enough oversteer so he loses just enough speed to make it down on this jump, at the same time uses the sideways rotation to be as straight as possible at this point. Right here, a minor counter steer to the side to stop the sideways rotation. Here uses the bounce from the first bounce so the car bounces up, uses a second hill to bounce down, at the same time presses brake while his wheels are touching the side so he has a hard rotation lock for the last part. So he runs flat right here, is very straight for the boosters, small air brake once again, and is directly into finish with as much momentum as he can. Anyway, hope you learned something from this video. Despite, let's just say, the map being very, like, just full send it, let's see what kind of happens. Still knowing these kind of setup points will help you to give the best amount of momentum and potentially the best time as well on this map. Hope it also you'll learn something about Trackmania mechanics, especially the plastic wall hug thingy, and ways how you can control and use your air brake a bit more efficiently on some other maps outside of this one as well. Anyway, that's gonna be it for me today. Make sure to check out the other track world record guide playlists as well. That'll be it for me today. Thank you all for watching and see you later. Bye bye.